And welcome back to Psycho Turtle Collectibles for our second gym challenge of fall. Dennis Geisler, Arnie Wolf here with you, heading into round number 3 of the Swiss stage here.
Now it's going to be an exciting matchup because we just saw in the last round Wheezing had its time to shine, and guess what? It's back! In addition, we are going to see another Dandozo Tatsugiri combo on stream, as well as Jaw, which is one of my favorites. And as you see, we have the match on the screen. We got Daniel Franklin, Joshua Denk. Let's get into it. I think right here, we'll talk a bit about it. Jaw hasn't been seen too much, but it is dangerous. It is so dangerous. Matcha Gacha is a really, really good just attacking move. And you have Rage Powder, Strength Sap, Trick Room. It's basically Among Us if you trade Spore for Trick Room.
Yeah, exactly, and there are a lot of advantages to it. It can also go against Amoongus. It's the only thing that gets Imprisoned Rage Powder if you really want to shut down that Amoongus.
Plus, also with Sinistcha, if you go Mental Herb, it sets up Trick Room. Like you can't get faked out with it because it's Ghost type, and it takes a lot of hits. Really, there's not a ton of fire types in the format besides Arcanine. Flying types, I got Tornadus. It just takes a lot. It takes all of those. Gotta watch out for some Flutter Mains though. But still, regardless, you probably can take it anyways.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'm interested to see how these two teams match up here.
Yeah. And there we go. It's on the screen.
See on Daniel's side, Iron Hands, Ogerpon, Wellspring, Sinistcha, Chiyu, Wheezing, and Fluttermane. On Joshua's side, Dandozo, Tatsugiri, the two friends, Dragonite, Chinpao, Chiyu, and Fluttermane.
Right off the bat, I'm looking at Joshua's team, and this is where I'm like, you have 3 cores, right? You have Dandozo, Tatsugiri, you have Chinpao, Dragonite, and you have Chiyu, Fluttermane. All 3 are very common cores. You have 3 modes, all of which are scary equally. Obviously, you kind of don't want to lead Dandozo Tatsugiri because you trap yourself in, but it is really scary to think, okay, what's in the back? Are we going to see Chiyu and Flutter in the back? Am I going to see the Chinpao and Dragonite in the back? And of course, obviously, Dandozo Tatsugiri looming over everything. However, I do think there's one thing that is this Joshua's team struggles a little bit against, and that would be Trick Room. It is a very fast team. Chinpao, Dragonite, Chiyu, Fluttermane, all very fast Pokemon. Iron Hands is really good against that, as well as Sinistcha, especially because the one thing that Joshua can do to stop that right in Trick Room that can attack faster would be Sucker Punches or Extreme Speeds. Sinistcha and Iron Hands take that very nicely.
Yeah, and frankly, I think Sinistcha matches up pretty well against Dandozo in this matchup, at least.
We're going to see a mirror matchup here, both sides leading Chiyu and Fluttermane. We also get to see that Daniel's Chiyu is faster or won the speed tide there, because it did activate its ability faster. Same thing goes for the Fluttermane.
Yeah, and that's some massive special damage we see being threatened on each of these sides here.
I think here, considering both Pokemon kind of have the exact same set, literally, I think both the Chiyus have the same set, and the Fluttermanes have almost, yeah, pretty much the same set, except there's a Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast difference. But either way, I think here, it could go either way. You gotta figure out who to target. Do you go for the that Dazzling Gleam? Do you go for Icy Wind to try and get speed control? If you're faster, if you know you're faster, you can go for the Icy Wind and Heat Wave combo. I think really it's about playing, yeah, that's exactly what I would have done, just Icy Wind and Heat Wave, but missing the Chiyu is less important.
Does get that Icy Wind down immediately. The early speed drop.
And the double Icy Wind.
It is matched. Still not 100% sure about the speed tie versus speed matchup thing. This does mean that Joshua's Chiyu is the only one that isn't dropped in its speed. A nice snarl there. It does a little bit of chip damage, gets the minus Feck attack.
Ooh, going for that Heat Wave. I think that was the right call. But yeah, actually, after the snarl, it
yeah,
didn't do
the problem
as much.
is with the reduced damage. Does get the burn. That just puts Fluttermane on a timer for the rest of the battle. Won't do all that much damage, and obviously the attack drop doesn't necessarily matter for Fluttermane.
I think Daniel here's not in a bad spot. You can get rid of Flutter Mane pretty easily. The thing is, you're going to get snarled. I think you want to switch your own Chia out if you're Daniel. Probably go into Iron Hands here, and then go for a Shadow Ball into the opposing Flutter. Moonblast is also acceptable if you want to see a predictive switch in. And just kind of let Chi go for Snarl, because you know it's going to go for it, and you know that your Flutter Mane will either go down, but Iron Hands, it doesn't matter about the Snarl.
Yeah, exactly. The Iron Hands does come in.
Ooh, Protect on Flutter is not a bad play at all. I think you definitely have longevity now, but the Icy Wind did activate. So once you bring your Flutter Mane back in, you can go for a Moonblast or threaten the opposing Flutter Mane. Or sorry, once you bring your Chi-Yu back in, and you could threaten the opposing Flutter Mane by faking out that Chi-Yu. But actually, I think it's not even, it's a good position anyways. That Chi-Yu is not going to do anything on Joshua's side. It's got Snarl, and you can just go for... Actually, Heat Wave's even a nice play here.
Yeah, the Chi-Yu is just set to keep snarling. Does take out the Flutter Mane. Iron Hands is in. A lot of the damage remaining is through that Chi-Yu.
Yeah.
Iron Hands doesn't not have damage, but it's not bad into what we see right now. It's just whatever's in the back that's the issue. I mean, that's what we were talking about with Joshua's team, where we see these two Pokemon in the front right now, but the question is what's in the back? How do you prepare for those Pokemon? And we get the Weezing with the neutralizing gas, I would say one of the most interesting abilities we have in VGC.
Absolutely. I completely agree on that one. I think it is very
It's really fun. I like a lot of the strategies it gets to set up.
I think right now Daniel's not in a bad spot. You get a free Drain Punch pretty much on the right side because it's going to Snarl, and you can't really, it doesn't really matter. Weezing's not there to attack, and Iron Hands is physical. And Flutter Mane, if you want to keep it in, you got to switch it out. And I think switching it, I think actually a double switch in Joshua's side is really good. If you did bring in that Tatsugiri Dondozo, now's the time to bring it in. You're in a good position. You could Terra Astralize it to Grass, and then at the end here, if you are stuck against Chi-Yu and Flutter Mane, you did waste your Terra. It's okay, because it's going to go down to Speed Ties again. And there's that Dondozo, yep.
There's switch number 1 into the Dondozo.
Oh.
And the Terastallization.
So no switch into Tatsugiri, staying in with the Flutter Mane.
Indeed. Daniel will Terastallize the Iron Hands.
I'm guessing expecting a Moonblast.
Likely expecting a Moonblast.
I wouldn't necessarily say that Terra is going to make a giant difference here. The Flutter Mane goes for that Shadow Ball onto the Weezing slot, and it kind of is a sitting, I guess, Pterodactyl at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it not Flutter. The thing is, when you go for Booster Energy, Flutter, and Speed, that's what it says in the Pokedex description, or in the Violet, or I believe Violet or Scarlet book. It says it's like a prehistoric pterodactyl. Yeah, so that's there you go. It looks like a ghost. And Chi-Yu coming in. So this is interesting. Is this okay? Joshua's either.
Well, now your Iron Hands is being threatened by the Chi-Yu,
yeah.
So you do have to focus that, while the Dondozo can do, I don't know, something. I don't know what the Dondozo does here, to be honest.
I think the Dondozo is there to just look pretty.
Yeah.
And but
it does have a little bit of Earthquake Pressure, but it doesn't want to do that into its Chi-Yu.
Yeah, and we're seeing that Terastral right now. I'm going to take a guess that is the Chi-Yu to go, so you do not get Drain Punched, because you know you're probably going to have to take 2 Heat Waves here. And if that Iron Hands did go for that Drain Punch, it would have one-hit KO'd. So if this Chi-Yu lives the hit... Oh, it goes straight Overheat into Weezing. That is very nice, because that'll still do a lot of damage on the Iron Hands, and it can't really do that much to you back without taking its own Wild Charge damage.
I especially like that decision because it protects the Dondozo from getting burned, which can also be a bit of a hindrance for you.
When you crash into that Terra Grass Iron Hands,
won't really do much, but not a bad thing.
It's not the worst in the world, yeah. That Wild Charge onto the Chi-Yu. They predicted the Terra Ghost, but Daniel unfortunately does not pick up the knockout, and an Overheat is still imminent. But it may come down here to a Speed Tie. I think right now... Oh, yeah, this is an interesting one. You kind of gotta go for Wild Charge on the Dondozo, and I think if you Wild Charge Dondozo and go for either Snarl or Dark Pulse, I think Snarl's the better bet, because you know after that Terra to Ghost, the Iron Hands has pretty effective moves on Dondozo, And if you're able to get rid of it, and that Tatsugiri is the last Pokemon, which I think we're going to see right now, then that's going to be really detrimental. But the question is, did Daniel go for a Snarl, or did Daniel go for a Dark Pulse?
Yeah, and in any case, there's the big commander. I didn't know how to describe it there. The commander bonus. I was trying to find a fun way of describing Dondozo eating Tatsugiri, but they'll activate the commander.
Aren't we all crave sushi sometimes? I don't blame Dondozo.
The Tatsugiri looks tasty.
It does.
Dondozo has good taste. That's all I'm saying.
Also interesting, I think here that's going to really decide the matchup. Joshua, really nice Earthquake there, and you get the information that you outspeed the Chi-Yu on the other side. This Wild Charge will do solid damage, not a ton, but solid, and at this point you cook Order Up and win the game.
Yeah, and that's what you were mentioning earlier about the the speed on Joshua's team, is that even the Dondozo at +2 speed, that doubled speed stat, actually is pretty fast. Chi-Yu's not a especially slow Pokemon, and Dondozo is there able to outspeed it pretty comfortably. So nice game 1 victory from Joshua. The mirror match start, and Joshua, I think, very clearly got the better end of that starting mirror match and was able to come out with the win afterwards.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think one thing also I want to point out with this Dondozo is it had Rocky Helmet as well, which does help threaten that Iron Hands. But let's say, like, looking at the rest of the Pokemon on Daniel's side, I'm really surprised we did not see Ogerpon, because it is Follow Me, it's Wellspring, so obviously you could only go for Order Ups into it, and if you do that, it forces the Order Up, and then Fluttermane or Iron Hands or whatever can get a double hit on it, because most likely, obviously Fluttermane's going to outspeed, and Iron Hands has the bulk to take a hit. And around 2 Wild Charges was enough to knock out that Dondozo. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Ogerpon come out here.
And it's a stretchy Order Up, not a...
Which raises speed, yeah.
Yeah, which raises the speed, which isn't that big of a deal if you are Daniel.
No. I think Joshua's being faster than that Chi-Yu, assuming the Chi-Yu is max speed, means it's definitely going to outspeed pretty much everything except Fluttermane and Ogerpon on Daniel's side.
The 2 Pokemon we did not see in the last one from Joshua, the Dragonite and the Chin-Pao, and Daniel will bring out the Fluttermane and that Ogerpon with the Wellspring Mask.
I think Daniel's in a better spot, although I would say Joshua, if Joshua was able to predict or play around this Fluttermane, then Joshua would be in a better spot. Dragonite has a lot of options. You have Outrage, Stomping Tantrum, Aqua Jet. I think, personally, the best bet to go for... Yeah, I just switched Dragonite out. Oh no, we're gonna see that Terrestrial right away. I think the Extreme Speed may be the best bet, because then Chien-Pao actually can go for a hit on the Fluttermane. If it is not invested, then Icicle Crash can one-hit KO, and then you also have Sucker Punch for later, and Focus Sash helps you. So if this Extreme Speed does really solid into Ogerpon, then Joshua's in a great spot.
Fluttermane will protect.
And I think we're going to see...
And Ogerpon will Spiky Shield.
Probably going to damage that Dragonite here.
So yeah, the Dragonite would take damage if it targets that, which it can't do anything against Fluttermane, so...
Yep. No use, unless you want to waste a turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And show off that you predicted the Protect on Ogerpon.
Be a funny prediction. Icicle Crash is the other option. That one went into Fluttermane. So not a whole lot happening other than a little bit of chip damage onto the Dragonite. But you do get to reveal that the Dragonite is the Terrestrial decision for this battle. Now the question is, what do these 2 Pokemon do? Because they are being threatened with a lot of damage from the other side, even though they know exactly what it is. And Chien-Pao's fast. It has a priority option if it wants to go for it now, knowing that the second Protect is unlikely. Dragonite, of course, will be moving first with that Extreme Speed, with the exception of Ogerpon using Follow Me to try to redirect, but that would be an interesting decision by itself.
I feel like if you go for the Follow Me redirection, you kind of, at this point, you basically gotta... Weezing's good. I think right now, the double switch is not bad, or you keep Fluttermane in. The nice thing, though, with Weezing on the field, and we just see Iron Hands in the back, is... First, Weezing's got to take this, but if the Weezing's on the field, Dragonite can be faked out because it loses that inner focus. So that's important.
Fluttermane moves first, gets the Moonblast, or moves first to the Pokemon using their speed stat. Activates the Focus Sash.
That was good.
Now the question is what that Icicle Crash will do to the Fluttermane. It does not finish off the Fluttermane. Both of those Pokemon with a little bit left in the tank there, and their endless battle will continue.
I think that the Fluttermane was... That bulky Fluttermane is actually a really nice play here. Extreme Speed obviously will get rid of the Weezing. I think you have to switch Fluttermane into Iron Hands and protect Weezing. Just because it's an obvious play, but it's the one play. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a double up here on that Fluttermane spot of Extreme Speed plus Icicle Crash. But you have to keep Weezing in play for this one turn, because then the Extreme Speed doesn't do anything. You can still Fake Out, and you could just neutralize Extreme Speed on the next turn and target that Chi and Pal. But I do think we're seeing a double up here on that Iron Hand slot.
Indeed, we will see.
Oh.
Extreme Speed does target the Weezing.
I think that was
into that
not
Protect.
a call.
And the decision for Chen Pao is the Sucker Punch, so very well read by Daniel there.
Yeah, I'm
not
actually
taking any damage on that turn.
I'm surprised at that. I totally thought we were going to see that Iron Hands, because I thought you can't stand with Flutter. You have to switch out. This is really good for Weezing right now, because you get a Fake Out, or I guess Drain Punch.
I mean, the thing is, you want to do more damage.
Yeah.
Weezing will come out.
This is also a good call, because you kind of bait that Extreme Speed into the Weezing slot.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
It weakens the defense of Dragonite. The neutralizing gas was keeping that down. Now the Dragonite will take more damage to a Drain Punch.
Extreme Speed does connect with the Fluttermane, except it doesn't connect because it's Ghost type, but it does go into that slot. Icicle Crash does pick up the knockout on Fluttermane though, but using that is really nice because it's going to allow you to get rid of the Dragonite, which is going to be aided by its own Chi and Pao.
Yeah, that's a incredibly smart move, and it picks up the KO. What a great move there by Daniel. Takes down the Terrastal, takes down that really scary Dragonite. I mean, we've seen this Choice Band Dragonite do so much over so long in the last few series.
I think.
And now, if you want, you can bring the Weezing back in and now have the Sword of Ruin drop down again. So
and
now
really
you're
nice.
way bulkier again.
There is one thing.
Neutralizing gas is such a fun ability.
I think Weezing is I think Weezing is really fun here. I think again it's showing how it's able to help here. I think you really just Drain Punch on Chi. I don't see any reason that that's not a good idea. I mean, you can Wild Charge it too, but I think actually if you...
Yeah, I guess the question here is what exactly do you want to do?
There's a lot of options. Actually, what
Dondozo.
I think this is maybe a call. I don't know. Wild Charge the Dondozo, Will-O-Wisp on Chi and Pal. Because that way it doesn't get Sucker Punch out on you, and you still are able to hit the Dondozo with a full power Wild Charge. But we are going to see Protect on Weezing, which is smart because you don't want to have it go down. There is one thing, though, that Daniel needs to watch out for. Okay, we're going to see try Protects.
Everybody protects except Iron Hands. So Iron Hands will just sit there for another turn. Yeah, I really like the idea of the Will-O-Wisp coming into Dondozo, just because burning Dondozo is a really nice way of stopping it.
Yeah,
it puts it on a timer, especially since this version of it does not have any healing. You get a little bit more healing out of Weezing. I'm not sure exactly if it will take another... if it will take another Icicle Crash?
Probably not.
Probably not. I don't think so.
It is leftovers though, so maybe it's got enough bulk back.
Icicle Crash does come through.
It does!
Barely.
Yeah.
And that is from some of the leftovers recovery that it was able to amass in the last couple of turns. The burn goes down on a Dondozo. Now it is dramatically weaker for the rest of this battle. Wave Crash finishes off Weezing, but Weezing has absolutely done its job in this one.
I think that burn just kind of turned the tide here. Neutralizing gas does wear off, and Sword of Ruin is back.
And you get more damage onto the Dondozo.
Which, we saw it last match too, where knocking out the Weezing actually ended up hurting you more than helping you. And I think Daniel just put himself in a really good position. We did see the Ogre Pond earlier, and I think that, you know, here you're pretty safe to just, because the Chi and Pao cannot one-hit KO Ogre Pond. And Tatsugiri in the last match. Okay, hear me out. Draco Meteor. It's
I
choice
think it
card.
has to. I think it has to
to.
use Draco Meteor.
Does that actually one-shot
I don't
Ogerpon?
think so.
I don't think so.
And
either.
Ogerpon can Spiky Shield if it needs to.
And it definitely does not knock out Iron Hands. I think
It definitely doesn't knock
if
it
you
out.
double up. Oh, you know what you do here? You Terra that Ogerpon, yeah, and then you just
Yeah,
because you
that's
get
an option as well.
you get the special defense boost, and you pretty much pick up whatever you need here.
Yeah, that's also true. And you're able to protect the Iron Hands if you want with the Follow Me. Don't really take any damage to Qian Pao. I didn't even realize Daniel hadn't even had to use his Terra until that point.
Yeah, that was I thought okay, that's definitely coming eventually, but I thought we were gonna see it once Tatsugiri and Dondozo went back with Commander, but that never happened. So we just see this +1 in special defense Ogerpon, which is really nice for a Draco Meteor from Tatsugiri. And Tatsugiri is still pretty powerful. I think people underestimate its power on its own after Dondozo goes down. So, and there it is, but it's gonna miss anyways.
The tragedy of Draco Meteor. The Icicle Crash does land, but
That's solid.
That's actually surprisingly good damage. But that's the last damage Qian Pao will do in this one.
Basically, at this point, if you are Joshua, you need to hope you survive a Drain Punch / Wild Charge from Iron Hands, and then crit a Draco Meteor.
I think you need your first Draco Meteor on Ogerpon. Take the next hit, and then get the critical hit.
1 in 16 chance, guys.
And
no,
it has
Joshua's
to
just gonna
land.
forfeit. Yeah.
Alright.
Hey, honestly, well played there. Really good. That Weezing is so scary. It can do so much on so many levels. It is dangerous. So
The
dangerous.
fact that Weezing, especially into that particular matchup of the Treasures of Ruin, specifically the Qian Pao in this case, where it is able to kind of artificially increase its defense stat while it's in, and then artificially decrease the opponent's defense stat when it leaves.
It just does.
It's such an interesting set of events that come together for that.
It really is. It really is. And I think we're going to see it again
We now
here.
go to a decider game 3 here. As a reminder, we're in round number 3 of the Swiss stage, still trying to work our way through out of these 5 rounds.
I think right here that the 4 that we're seeing Daniel possibly bring in are the right 4. I think it's a good lead with Weezing as well, too, because if they do decide to go for Dragonite Qian Pao like we saw in the last game, that's not going to help them. It also does remove... Okay, well, same lead worked. Why not change? Why change it, you know? But I do think that seeing Weezing come in against Dragonite Qian Pao is going to be really good. But I actually do like Ogerpon as a lead because it does give you a better matchup against Chi-Yu Fluttermane, and that could very well come in. It's one of those 2 combos, unless we see something weird like Qian Pao Fluttermane, which I wouldn't be put it past Josh. Josh is a very creative player, and I mean... running this set, it's so many different options that I wouldn't be surprised if we see something. Well, we aren't, but I wouldn't have been surprised.
We do get the same lead as the last time. Remember, on the last one, Joshua started with that Terra Normal Extreme Speed Dragonite, locked himself into that one, and ended up getting exploited by the Iron Hands. In this case, the same option is available to Daniel to start this one off of the Protect Spiky Shield, both Pokemon protecting, trying to stay out of damage from Joshua. We'll see if Joshua decides to go for a different option here, because clearly that did not work out last time.
Oh, we're seeing a Terra. Okay, we're going to go for that
Terra.
I actually wanted to see the switch into Dondozo.
It is the same.
I think the switch into Dondozo would have been interesting because, yeah, you're a bit fragile to Fluttermane, but it's not going to do that much. You would have to Terra, but if you do Terra that Dondozo to Grass, you pretty much have a really good matchup. That being said, I think we're going to see an exact mirror, like you said, of the double, the Protect Spiky Shield combo.
Yeah. And in this case, again, the most likely instance would be that extreme speed. It has to go into the Ogerpon, and so that's, again, a little bit of chip up against that Dragonite.
I kind of hope Joshua did not bring in Tatsugiri Dondozo, though. I'm assuming that we are seeing a mirror, but going into Flutter here, seeing the Fluttermane come out, I just think you need... It's so hard to hit right now because Dragonite cannot hit it. You are banking on Qian Pao, and Ogerpon being on the field, yeah, you can get rid of it, but then if you do end up going into... Okay, they're going to go for it. I thought we were going to see a switch into Weezing.
This time,
I thought we were going to see a switch into Weezing.
Yeah, we saw the switch last time, but no switch. Extreme speed?
I think the Weezing switch was better because it would...
Ooh, Ogerpon barely takes that one.
Okay, Daniel's in a good spot now.
Moonblast does okay damage into the Dragonite. Special attack drop doesn't necessarily matter. And the Icicle Crush lands and finishes off the Ogerpon.
With the critical hit,
with a very important critical hit.
That decided the game. No.
I mean, I will say Joshua has not missed an Icicle Crash.
No.
Which is always a pretty important detail. Nor has gotten a flinch on an Icicle Crash.
I think here... I'm just worried with that Flutter Mane being against Chien-Pao, because it can do a lot of damage, and I don't know. I think maybe you fake out the Chien-Pao here. I think that's pretty safe, actually. And you could just go then for the Moonblast on Dragonite to pick up the Dragonite knockout. And then you have a bit of an easier matchup without Dragonite threatening everything with a really full power extreme speed. But Joshua did call that. Okay, we're not going to see Tatsugiri Dondozo in this last match. I think we're going to see a Moonblast go connect with Joshua's Flutter Mane here.
Indeed. Flutter Mane coming in here. Gets the booster energy boost. Fake out, stops the Chien-Pao, breaks the Focus Sash. And that Moonblast gets the critical hit.
Now that crit may have mattered.
That crit mattered quite a bit. That was a lot of damage into that Flutter Mane slot there of Josh's. And now some decisions to make for each of them. That Moonblast,
I think
another Moonblast does finish off Flutter Mane. A Moonblast absolutely finishes off Chien-Pao. Both Iron Hands and Flutter Mane have options to knock out both Flutter Mane and Chien-Pao. Is where the sentence is leading for me.
Basically, I think Iron Hands is a really good matchup into actually the rest of Joshua's team. If it is Chien, if it actually no matter as long anything, you just keep this Iron Hands alive. You have a super effective move on every one of Joshua's Pokemon except for Tatsugiri, but Tatsugiri's not coming out solo.
The bulky Flutter Mane will take the Sucker Punch.
It lives it though, so that's the important thing, you know.
And that Drain Punch will finish off Chien-Pao.
We're gonna see. Okay.
The last Pokemon most likely has to be Chi-Yu.
That's the way you gotta go into Chi-Yu right now. You have to go into Chi-Yu.
Oh, yeah, Dragonite is still alive. Dragonite is still up. Was switched out earlier. I honestly forgot about that as well.
I am surprised that the Chi-Yu didn't come out because Iron Hands is the big threat. And Chi-Yu, with Overheat, Choice Specs, is so dangerous. Partner that with a Moonblast, and this Iron Hands doesn't go down. The hard part, though, and maybe I think why we see Dragonite, is that Flutter Mane on Daniel's side still poses a threat, and potentially a knockout on the Iron Hands. Like, that could cost, if that Flutter Mane, which we're seeing Protect right now, was able to move faster than Joshua's, that would cost the game. And it could be a speed tie, or it could be just faster. That is the smart call. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Aquajet was the option there.
That is the call. That is
secondary priority move.
I think Daniel's in a great spot. If you're able to position yourself to get rid of that Iron Hands, that's what you need to do.
And the Iron Hands will pick up the Dragonite. So, an interesting switch in from the Dragonite. Had the Aquajet option, but ultimately the Protect from Daniel's Flutter Mane was easily able to stall that one out. And the Dragonite and the Terra will disappear with it. And now we will see the Chi-Yu come out on Josh's side.
I think that you should have just brought the Chi-Yu out right away and then finish it with the extreme speeds, because then Weezing can't really do all that much, and your Chi-Yu would have lived. I mean, Weezing, I did underestimate Weezing's speed in the last, special attack in the last game, but still, I think that was the better option. Here, you basically gotta hope you outspeed if you're Joshua and hit that Overheat, because that combo would pretty much win you the game. But other than that, if it's a speed tie, we see the Icy Wind. Okay, you know what? That may have been the right call here, because Flutter Mane's still going to be able to get a Dazzling Gleam, and she still gets that full power Overheat on this Iron Hands. I think actually you can even lock onto Heat Wave here and feel safer.
Yeah, I think you can. Overheat will be the one to come out, and it will finish off the Iron Hands.
Oh, that Icy Wind, I think, was a bit of an issue here, because I think if you went for a Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast or Shadow Ball onto the opposing Flutter Mane, that would have been the deciding factor. But Weezing against the pinnacle of special attack combos,
indeed, although
is dangerous.
this Weezing can have some special bulk.
Okay.
Chiyu is already at half special attack. It does have insanely high special attack, but that has been halved.
I think right now the reason that this is Joshua's game to lose is that Shadow Ball on Fluttermane doing a lot of damage. That you have the ability, yeah, exactly. You have the ability to go for it, and it just that's gonna cripple Weezing enough to where half power overheat will do enough. It is possible for Weezing to stall this out. I'm not gonna deny that because we saw how Weezing was able to take it, but
can't forget about the overheat miss chance.
There, that too, exactly.
Ooh.
But I think
and
here...
the Weezing still has the Terastallization available.
If Joshua called this Terastal, it's game over. But
if Joshua called the Terastal and uses the Dazzling Gleam, this is pretty much over. If it's a Shadow Ball, Weezing might take both of those hits.
Yeah.
And then we see where we go from there.
Terradark Weezing. It did go for the Shadow Ball.
It is the Shadow Ball.
It's
pretty low damage, all things considered.
Oh, but it drops the
special defense.
That was needed. That was needed.
That was huge. And now we wait for Chiyu.
It's just a -1 Chiyu. It's just like it got snarled. Does hit the overheat.
It's overheat. And finishes it off. A very exciting set we had here for game number 3, and Joshua will take the victory.
Wow. I mean, that was intense. You could hear the applause in the background. I personally think that was a nail biter all the way to the edge of your seat until the very end. I think the deciding play, though, at least what I think, Daniel's Icy Wind. I think the Dazzling Gleam was just, or Moonblast or Shadow Ball was just slightly smarter.
Anything that could have finished off the Fluttermane probably was a good idea, and then the Chiyu would have been alone, wouldn't have had that extra damage.
Exactly.
In that case, even up against the Weezing in that ending one-on-one, if it did end up as a one-on-one there, the overheat at just -2, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have actually knocked it out. I think Weezing would have had a chance to stall out, but either way, wonderful play. And we were talking about it earlier. You don't know what's coming out in the back with Joshua's team, and we saw it this time because we were expecting Dondozo. That's what happened in game 2, but obviously Dondozo was scrapped in favor of Chiyu Fluttermane, and being able to put two really dangerous cores with Chi and Pao Dragonite and Fluttermane Chiyu and have them come out back to back, it just overwhelmed so many different teams.
Indeed it is. So with that, that is the end of round number 3. We'll be back in just a moment with round number 4. Do not go anywhere.